Welcome to the Vortex Nation podcast, brought to you by lovers of hunting, shooting, public lands, the Second Amendment, and good food. What's up, Vortex Nation? All right, it's Jimmy here. We got Mark, Ruben, and our special guest for today is David Hartman from the Three Gun Show.
How you doing, Jimmy?
Hey, good. It's good to have you here, Dave. Now, some of you may already be familiar with the Three Gun Show. Now, Dave's podcast has been around a little bit longer than ours, I'd say.
Oh, yeah.
To say the least. So he's been well established in the three-gun world and growing quite a bit since you first started out. And actually, Dave, if you listen to his podcast, you actually don't always hear about Dave. And he likes to keep it that way. So what's the best way to get a humble guy to talk a little bit about himself is get him on a different podcast where we can now make him talk about himself. At least that's the idea.
This is uncomfortable, man. It feels weird in this seat over here.
Right. So, and since Dave's been at it a little bit longer than we have, if suddenly he just kind of instincts take over and he just starts hosting this thing, we'll just let him go with it because he hosts a dang good podcast. If you haven't heard it yet, you should go check it out. But anyway, like we said, Dave, why don't we just start out with like a Spark Notes version on who you are, where you came from, then we'll just start asking questions from there maybe. See
Cool.
where it goes.
Well, born and raised in Colorado, and somewhere around 2008, skipping ahead a little bit, I discovered firearms. Started shooting a little bit, plinking stuff, and doing tactical drills and everything. We didn't have Instagram, so no one knew about it, but it was still cool, right? So,
Wait, you actually did firearms without Instagram?
I know, it was weird.
Is that possible?
And we didn't know if we were doing any good because there was no comments, right?
Oh, right.
So we couldn't tell if we were doing it right or if we got caught in the fatal funnel.
Jeez.
The firearm will actually function without the Instagram.
I know it's weird. I can show you later, but it really will.
Okay.
Well, how will you show me if it's not on Instagram?
That's a good point, man. Yeah, so I tried to join a pistol league in the range that I belong to, and one of the guys that ran the pistol league, he wasn't very nice, and so I thought, okay, well, I don't want to go do that. That's not for me. And took me like 2 years before I got back into like thinking like maybe I want to go compete. I saw a video on YouTube, and it was Russell Fagan, is a Sinistral rifleman, and he had a video from Iron Man. And I thought, oh man, they let you do that? You can do that? And then looking at it, it's like, oh, someone else set that up. I don't have to go set up the targets myself. Like, so I really wanted to try three gun, and my local club had a three gun match, and I just built an AR-15. I had a pump shotgun. I had a Glock 17, so I was like, oh, I'm going to go try that. And I did. Super hooked, man. And then I pretty much just threw down every other hobby I had and been shooting three gun ever since.
So what hobbies took a back seat to three gun then?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was a real big gearhead from probably like 12 years old. Like I had, it's kind of silly now I think about it looking back, but I had like 8 subscriptions to magazines of cars I didn't have, because I'm 12, right? So I had like 5-0 magazine, I had Mustang Monthly, I had like Carcraft and Motor Trend and Hot Rod magazine, all those things. And I read them like literally cover to cover. And I would stack them up in the order. And this stack over here was stuff I wanted to reread, right?
Right.
which is like you rarely ever reread stuff, But I would reference stuff with, from those magazines with in conversations with friends, and I'd bring in the magazine to highlight it and show it to them. Oh, hey, here's what we were talking about. It's like, thanks, Dave. And then when I got to college, I had a bunch of roommates that were gearheads as well. So we did Friday night when everyone's out partying and stuff. We'd stay in the garage and we'd drink beer, listen to country music, and we'd do an engine swap on a Jeep. So that was for a long time stuff that I did. I was totally into cars, did a little bit of drag racing and things like that. And somewhere along the lines there, got into, hiking, backpacking and stuff. And that's something I still do and still enjoy, but it's definitely taken a backseat to three gun. But firearms for me, I shot them a little bit when I was a kid, but I came in a little bit late to be on the enthusiast side. But it really took the place of cars for me as far as like the mechanical portion, because I really love taking stuff apart, putting it back together, modifying it and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Walking around here is like a dream, right? There's all these cool guns everywhere, and everyone's got like a neat little thing that they found and put on there. It's like, what is that? Where'd you get that? Who makes that? That kind of thing. So
you mentioned Jeeps. AR-15s are like the Jeep Wrangler of guns.
Absolutely.
Infinitely customizable.
And most of them are mall posers, right? Yeah, infinitely customizable. There's tons of great stuff you can do. You can make, a race Jeep. You can make an off-road Jeep. You can make a cool Jeep to go pick up your kids at the school and stuff like that. So there's something for every occasion.
Classic grocery getter.
Absolutely.
Very classic.
Everybody needs a grocery getting AR.
Probably don't make your cool AR to go pick your kids up at the school, though.
Why not?
Fair enough.
They're your kids, man. You got to protect them.
Darn right. Now I feel like an ass.
We still love you, Mark.
We do. But cool. All right. So you're into cars. Actually, that's evidenced too by your now shooting jersey and your design. Does that design go elsewhere? And for the record, if people haven't seen it, it's like this sweet vintage GT40 Ford blue and orange. We're talking like Dumb and Dumber blue and orange.
Yeah, it's the Gulf livery. And so if you're not familiar with Gulf livery, you need to get out more. But just hit that in the Google and you'll come up with like 100 cars just on the first page because it's one of the most popular and iconic liveries, designs for a car in the history of the world. Like Tom Cruise's mellow yellow car in Days of Thunder is probably number 2. So
Yep.
What we're doing next year, preview.
Oh. Little preview action here on the podcast.
You heard it here.
You heard it here first.
Now you did okay. So you mentioned a couple of hobbies. Now you had a pretty cool job.
Yeah, I did.
How much can you talk about that job?
Well, I would like to not say the name of the company, but
That's fair.
I did work in aerospace, and I worked on the space side of aerospace. So I worked at a company in Colorado, and we worked on like a 2,000-acre facility. There's like 60 buildings. It was built in the Cold War. And it was built between mountains because they figured that if Denver gets nuked, that nuclear blast is going to go over the mountains, over the foothills, and they'll still be able to make their rockets to propel the nuclear weapons in the outskirts of Denver there. So pretty trippy. There's so much history at that place, and again, for being like an engineering nerd and a mechanical nerd, it was just a dream to work there.
Yeah, so what were you, like engine swapping rockets or something, or what?
Actually, I watched guys engine swap rockets. So when I started there, I was an engineering aide, and so taking another step back, like I have a degree in marketing, but I've always enjoyed like that part of it, the sales and marketing kind of aspects. But the tinkering was like a hobby, right? And so, I'd go to work at the aerospace company that I almost said, and I'm an engineering aide, so it was great, man. I was a liaison between the engineers and the manufacturers, so I'd get to go down and hang out with the guys and watch them machine parts and stuff like that, and we talk about like tool paths and figure out how to do that stuff. And then I go sit with the engineers, and they tell you like how they put GD&T, which is geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, on the parts, and what that means, and what they're trying to tell the engineer, and what this whole language means to someone. So you can send it to someone in Germany, someone in France, and they know exactly what you're talking about, and you don't even have to speak the same language. It's just all the little symbols and numbers on the engineering drawing. So went down that rabbit hole for like 8 years, became a manufacturing engineer, took a step back and became a from the actual hands touch on manufacturing, and became a planner for like a 77-person lab, and it was a propulsion lab. So we would not only build and do tests, and the tests were incredible. Like we would do hot fires of rockets. So you're in the morning, sun's about to rise, and you're looking out over
it's like a desk pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like
It is
rockets.
more monumental.
It is the biggest desk pop you've ever seen, man. Yeah, it was incredible. So we would actually test fire rockets on rocket stands that were built in the Cold War. It was just absolutely incredible to be a part of.
What is a rocket stand? Is it like what you would shoot like pop rockets out of, but times 1,000?
Yes. Yeah, it's incredible, man. The area that we were in was tucked back in, like I said, in the foothills, and we were the very last building on the hill. And there was all these old dirt roads that, at one time were well maintained, but had kind of eroded away because of the, Cold War kind of ended, and we stopped building rockets for nuclear warheads. And so we're building like satellites and building rockets to propel humans to space. So they kind of made a pivot, right, in their line of business. But they would hack away like half a mountain, and then they would reinforce all that with concrete and I-beams, and they would build these, huge fixtures, because the rocket, when it fires, it's not firing like as much as it would to propel a spacecraft in space. It's on a lower level. But if you don't anchor that thing down, it's still going somewhere. So imagine you had to engineer something to fire one of those like Estes model rockets we did in Cub Scouts. but keep that in place. And you've got all these cameras and all these acoustic monitors all over the place, trying to figure out like what's happening. And is this going to be something that we want to happen, or do we need to redesign this to mitigate a problem that we have?
So you've lassoed a rocket. It's
Yes.
shooting off, but it's not
Yes.
going anywhere.
Exactly. Just like Bugs Bunny.
That's insane. That sounds like fun.
It was pretty incredible.
I'm just enjoying the look on Mark's face.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. It was a really fun place to work with, or to work for. Some of the most incredibly smart people that I've ever met in my entire life. And I joke around that they were so smart that they couldn't handle the small stuff, and that's what I was there for, is to handle the small things for them. There was a guy there that one time he was telling me, and, he was like 30 years older than me. He'd been working at for like 25 years. And he was telling me, he's like, oh yeah, I gotta go take off. So if anyone wonders where I'm at, I'm taking care of this. And I was like, is everything fine? You seem a little upset. And he's like, yeah, they're foreclosing my house. I'm like, why? He's like, I forgot to pay my mortgage. Like, how long? Oh, 9 months. It's like, this guy is loading spacecraft with fuel, and he's sending, things in space, multi-million-dollar spacecraft, and he couldn't handle something as small as like writing a check every single month or setting up automatic bill pay.
Dude, that's killer, man.
Yeah, it was great. So I went and sat down with him and showed him what automatic bill pay was, and we took care of that problem, and he could go back to engineering spacecraft solutions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I
Did
know.
you guys use like bidet toilets there too for the guys who kind of didn't know how to? No, okay. We won't go down that route.
I didn't even think of that, but now I need to make some phone calls when we're done here.
Someone might need some help.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you had a sweet job.
I did.
You were lassoing rockets, and you were in a cool area of the country, and doing some stuff that you had always loved, which involved engineering and tinkering on stuff and engines and big rockets and things like that.
Yep,
You left all of it
I did.
for 3 Gun.
I did.
And now, from what I've gathered, you started podcasting, though, about 3 You started 3 Gun and you started podcasting about 3 Gun before you had left. Is that right?
Yeah. So backing up just a little bit, like at one point I had a job where I was a machinist in a shop, and we built engine oil tanks for race cars, dry sump oil systems, where basically instead of the oil pan on the bottom of the engine, it was located somewhere else, and it had a remote pump that pumped it in. So when you're drag racing or when you're going around corners, all that oil doesn't go away from the sump, starving the engine, toast the engine, right? So I worked there, and it was kind of repetitive work, a lot of assembly, a lot of machining, a lot of deburring things, and it was loud. So you had to wear earplugs, and so I just bought an iPod, my first iPod.
Was it like one of those colorful ones, like the iPod?
No,
color
before
or
that,
whatever?
bro. Dude,
Wait.
we only had black.
There was an iPod before that?
Yeah. First of all, I'm going to blow your mind. Like, we had iPods, right? It wasn't an iPhone. Apple hadn't even created a phone yet. They had their first one that was white, and this one came out, and hang on, hold your hats. It's black.
Whoa.
So I know. So I bought my first iPod. I found out that you could buy books on iTunes, because I got tired of listening to the same 17 songs again. And so I bought a book, and it was done in a day and a half. And I did some math on that, and I'm like, let's see, I think at the time I was making like $12 an hour. Like, I make $12 an hour, and this book was $14.50, and I did it in a day and a half. Like, this isn't going to work out, So I started searching for free content, and I found podcasts, and I just completely got into it. It was 2005, so it's like the early days, right? It's people like, is anyone even listening to this? And there wasn't like the industry or the path that there is now, but I always really identified with it, and I enjoyed it, and I understood that I created like a personal relationship with the people that were listening, and I always thought like, oh, that'd be cool if I could do a podcast on my own topic, but I don't know what it would be, right? Fast forward like several years later, 2011, I shoot my first 3 Gun match. 2012, I'm like, you know what? I'm watching 3 Gun Nation, and there's never any backstory on all these people, and I want to know who these people are and why I should care about them. And there should be a podcast on that. I could do that, and I didn't do it until like 2015. So. Right. 2015, start the podcast, still working at so it's something I'm doing on the weekends and in the evenings.
Right on, man.
I just said, can you
We'll go beep
cool
when you say it. It'll be perfect. Ryan's really good at that. MC Ryan, everybody.
I think we're going to need 3 beeps.
Yeah.
Ba-dum-tsh.
3 total.
That's fine.
Did I say it 3 times?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
But-
glad you guys are here.
That's what you got us for.
Yeah.
So okay, so you start the podcast. You're still at, and you're 3-gunning now. But then you just decided to. The podcast must have just gotten the point where you must have just did you love what you were doing more, or
I tell you what.
up?
So the cool stuff I told you about is like the 1% of the job, right? The 99% was managing your way through bureaucracy, and it was very, very difficult to get things done. And in a company that claims to be innovative, they were not. And so that's why we're beeping, by the way. And it got to the point where it was just soul crushing for me to be there every day, and I just needed a way out. So I started the podcast as a way out. Like, yes, I love 3-gun. It's my passion. It's something I'm enjoying doing. And I wanted to start a podcast to create a business around it, lifestyle business where I could go out and shoot, do the things that I enjoy, and then also be able to, feed my dog, when he's hungry. So that's the reason I started the podcast. And after about a year and a half of it going, I decided that a way to accelerate it would be to minimize the things that I own and my impact on the world, kind of a minimalism sort of movement. So I sold my townhouse, sold almost everything I own that wasn't podcast or gear related. And I bought a travel trailer. I loaded up my little dog, and we started traveling around the country and shooting matches full time.
Dude, what's that like? Is that freaky?
Yes,
at first? That's gotta be.
It is, man. So, you get used to stability, right? And I had lived in the same house for 7 years, been in the same job for 8 years. The paycheck kept coming. Like, I had decent health insurance and stuff like that. And when you look at telling people, oh, I work here, and, when my parents would say, oh, my son works here, they're like, oh, well, he good for him, that kind of thing. Whereas, like, now you're like, oh, yeah, I live in a travel trailer, and my dog and I kick around shooting guns. People are like,
So you're a hobo.
Exactly. Yeah, I guess, thank you, Mark, if you want to call it that. I am a hobo. But
I think gypsy is a nicer term.
there you go. Yeah, 3-gun gypsy.
Better.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, though, man. That's kudos to you.
Thanks.
That's a big move. Like you said, that's a lot of
huge.
stability to give up,
Yeah.
and that's impressive.
Did you like traveling before you did this, or did you have to just force yourself into liking it?
Funny story, Jimmy. So the first time I was on an airplane, I was like 25 years old. So traveling was not something we did when we were younger. Like at one point, my family was on food stamps, and we just didn't have the money. So that was something that rich people do, That at least that's what I was told. But, being an adult and having like your own income and stuff like that, I did travel for obstacle races, did a bunch of Spartan races and Warrior Dash, Tough Mudder, stuff like that. And I went to Las Vegas a few times to run races there, went to Park City, Utah to run races there. And so that is kind of something similar that we do to 3-gun, you get the VRBO, you get your friends that are going out to the race and that kind of thing, and you make like a weekend of it. So at that point, I had not even traveled for a 3-gun match. Like, I had only shot the 3 majors that were in Colorado. So I didn't know what to expect. So the very first major that I shot was after I quit my job, out-of-state major. It was after I quit my job, and I went down to Texas and shot the 3-Gun Nation Southeast Regional. But I knew that immersing myself in that environment and in that match environment would be huge for the podcast in increasing the people that I know, increasing the reach of the show, being able to shake hands with people on my squad and, in the dirt, as we like to say, and talking about the show and the value that it provides, introducing people to podcasts, grabbing their iPhone from them and like, this is a podcast. This is how you listen to it, And so, no, I didn't travel a lot. And so I had to figure like all that other stuff out. And I had never owned a travel trailer or motorhome or anything. So that was a huge learning opportunity as well.
Is that what you got a bathroom in that thing?
Yeah.
All right.
Got
right
a bathroom, shower, stove, oven, sink, things like that.
So you probably have to empty the bathroom now. Is that
It's
like
the worst part of
Christmas Vacation with National Lampoons? Is that like they make it seem? You just find the nearest sewer and just go out with a stogie and.
There's been a couple times where I had considered doing that, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And if if anyone's listening that has an RV, you're not supposed to travel a great distance with it because your waste bounces around on the road and it gets this nice little slushy going in there and
Wouldn't that be easier to drain though?
Yeah.
So, that's what you're supposed to do.
No. Easier to drain. So I honestly don't know. I didn't do any sort of experiments, and it goes in a tube, and I never look at it.
That's what I would do. I I would want it like fine consistency,
Right.
like a smoothie, so that it runs out and
So
doesn't
you
clog
would
the
you
pipe.
would almost do like what they do with don't they do that when they're pouring like cement or something? They
Yep.
have that
Yeah.
like shaker.
Yep.
Yeah, there you
You
go.
would do sort of that with it.
That's what I'm just personally, because I wouldn't want to clog it and then have to go in and clean it. You know?
So I don't know how you roll, bro, but it's like a 6-inch diameter tube that it comes out.
Okay, so
Oh,
that
so
seems
you
plenty.
get it like perfectly in line every time. It never lays across the hole.
What?
Dude, you got some. You all right?
I'm just
we,
asking.
we need to send Ruben to the medic. You guys have a medic here?
Do you have a couch? Maybe we'll talk about the couch.
I do have a couch. I have a guest
Onto the
bedroom.
living
Ooh.
area. Very nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
it's actually really small though. It's like a 20-foot travel trailer, right? So
Yeah.
the couch / dining room table / guest bedroom is like all the same thing. You know, it's just
Right.
It's like the
whatever
size of the
configuration
mini
you put in.
studio.
It is the size of the mini studio.
yeah, it's actually 20 foot.
Yeah,
It's
so
perfect.
imagine if you had like a bathroom, a shower, you know, and tried to fit all your 3-gun stuff, every possession you have. And so for me, like I didn't leave anything behind. I didn't buy like or rent a storage container or something like that. So I pretty much went down to the minimalist possible.
Do you have garage sales?
I did. I had several garage sales. My mom took a lot of my stuff and put it in the garage sale. I was like, Mom, I'll give you 50% commission on this. And so she did a lot of that stuff. I know she loves garage sales, so it worked out
Some
for her.
Good commish.
Yeah,
I'll say.
No, you're wearing a shirt that says freedom on it,
I am.
which is awesome because I think everybody hearts freedom.
Mm-hmm.
But just living, kind of taking that minimalist route and the bare essentials, which include, I guess, beer and windmills. But was that super freeing?
It was, dude.
That was like a totally just
It's a
vague,
windmill.
Dumb and Dumber reference.
Oh, pizzas.
Oh, I
Right.
I call those
right.
things windmill, a little small
yeah.
thing, But
I call them 1/2 cheese sandwich.
That's what pizza is.
Yeah.
You fold it in
If we're
in half,
making-
and
if
it's
we're
like a
It's
making
a
up
cheese
really
sandwich.
names.
long name. Why don't you just call it pizza?
I'm gonna start over here. But so I just totally lost my train of thought.
Okay,
but
man.
anyway, we're talking about freedom.
I got
doing
distracted
good.
by
You're
the
doing good.
windmill thing. I don't remember what
I
you
know. I
said.
just totally ruined everything.
You're doing good, man. Keep it up.
But so we're talking about you getting rid of everything except
Uh-huh.
the bare essentials.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've got the trailer, you've got your guns, you've got your ammo,
Mhm.
and you're essentially living this super rad nomadic lifestyle.
Yeah.
And like, what was that like? Describe that. I would have to think like there's like just an overwhelming sense of freedom.
Yeah.
There.
I tell you, when I left my job for the last time, like I said, it was a very large facility, so it took me like 3 miles to get out. I drove, the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit all the way out the door, but I actually like teared up a little bit on the way out, because it's something that you've known for so long, and you have memories of like all these buildings and these wonderful people that you've met. There were several thousand people that worked in the facility that I did, and in certain pockets and things like that. And it was an emotional experience. But when I got home and finished, sold the house, finished taking everything out of there that I was going to use, threw away a lot of things, donated just a massive, massive amount of furniture and clothes and dishes and forks. Like, I was like, okay, this is the best fork. I'm going to put that one in the trailer. All these other ones go
The least bent.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was like how I did it. Like pretty much took everything and got it. But not owning a bunch of stuff is very, very freeing. Like you create a lot of space in your mind to think about other things. So it was really eye-opening how much clutter I had upstairs, in my brain.
Right.
That was taken up by, where is this marker, these plates, the cups and stuff like that. And when you pare it down to like only the bare essentials, it reminds me of like the freedom of backpacking,
Right.
where you carry everything with you and it becomes your burden as well. So if you overpack, you have to bear that burden, right?
Yep.
And that's the same thing with traveling with a trailer and all your possessions, because planning ammunition became an interesting thing. It's like you can't just buy 10,000 rounds on the first day of the season and be good to go. You got to like resupply along the way. But yeah, when I hooked up the trailer and loaded my dog in the truck and we set out for Texas for that first match, I mean, I smiled for like the first like 300 miles, man. It was unbelievable just to think like, I can't believe I'm doing this, And And at the time, one of the things that kind of pushed me over the edge is I had several people that were contemporaries, similar age to me, that had passed away suddenly. One guy had cancer. One guy's wife died of cancer. There was another person that died of an accidental overdose, and it was amazing to think, like, we don't have all the time in the world. So am I going to do this podcast for the next 20 years while I do my job normally as well? And then when I retire, get a trailer and load up a dog. That dog's not going to be around, and we're not going to be able to enjoy this together. And then go to matches, or do I put all on the line and do it now? And as much as it is leaving that comfort zone and getting rid of your parachute, it really is like an absolutely freeing idea.
Dude, that's all in, man.
Yeah.
So what did the dog think of it at first? Parker.
Dude, Parker. So I have a Brittany Spaniel named Parker. He's 9 years old now. And at first he was elated, and he's not stopped. Like we've spent like almost every single day together since then. There's been a couple times where I've had to board him to fly places and stuff, but dude, he gets to run around all the time. He's peed in more states in the last 3 years than I was in my first 35 years.
Man.
Yeah, that dog's been some places and seen some stuff, man.
That's a good way to determine where you've been. Have I peed in that state?
Yeah.
Maybe, like some people when they say how many states you've been to, and they're like, well, I drove through this one.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you should actually make it that
You
you've
peed
been
in
in that
states,
state
yep.
if you peed there.
Yeah, so Jimmy, you're the youngest, right?
Yeah.
You have several older brothers. So
Right.
I have one older brother. And I don't know how you are, but I'm a little ornery with my older brother for all the stuff that he did when I was young, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of my favorite things to do is when my dog is pooping in a beautiful area, I will take a picture of that with the beautiful background or whatever, and I will send it to my brother and say, Parker says hi.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's
But
a good.
technically,
I
I
like
was
that.
in California yesterday.
Okay, good.
Officially.
Good.
Did you pee in
By
California?
this
That's what I meant.
Oh,
by
nice.
this standard.
Yep.
That's good. Actually, I'll have to know that too because I do have older brothers, and I'm just about to get a dog.
There you go.
So
I think you should make a calendar and then give it to your brother for Christmas.
That is an amazing idea.
Dave's brother, don't listen to this yet.
Yeah. So on that topic, so my brother's not a gun guy. Right?
Really?
And yeah, so he owns like a shotgun. He shoots clays with his sons, but he's not into it as much as I am or anything. One of the coolest things that I've experienced is just a couple days ago, I was at the Jeff Kirkwold Memorial match in Minnesota, which is why I'm here. I figured since I was 14 hours closer to you guys than usual, I might as well come say hi. But I was over there. He lives in Wisconsin. He made a hour and a half, 2 hour trip with his family to come see me. And I'm doing social media stuff for Jeff Kirkwold Memorial because I had shot the day before, and we got to go around and I got to show them like this is what I do, And my brother, like I said, is not into firearms, but he's listened to absolutely every episode that I've done.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
It is
Nice.
so cool, and it makes me feel so good. And I have an amazing relationship with my brother, but in spite of the photos I sent him, but it made me feel so good to know that he listens, and like he'll call me all the time and talk about stuff like, what did you mean by this? But he got to meet like several people that we all know, like Vortex shooters, Jake Latola, Josh Freilich, and he felt like he knew those people already because he listened to them on the show, so he knows a little bit about their life.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
It was great.
So what now? Okay, so we've talked a little bit about sort of what it was like when you first got started with the podcast. Now, and you left your job at Beep and loaded up a trailer, installed that stuff, which is super cool story. Now, here we are in 2018,
Yeah.
and things have evolved quite a bit for you. And I want to kind of jump ahead a little bit to this point.
Mhm.
What's it like for you now? You're coming up on soon your 200th episode.
200th episode, yeah.
And like, I'm curious too, like, I'd imagine at first it was probably difficult maybe for you to figure out exactly what to do, like, for instance, in the winter or something like
Yes.
that. But now I think you even have a place, like an HQ, if you will. Right?
Yes. So
Maybe go into some of that.
I've got an HQ that's about half of the studio that we're sitting in right now, and I have kind of a similar setup. I have like a gun bench setup and things where I'm doing a lot more video stuff now because the feedback from the audience is that they want to see what's going on, right? So I'm doing installs on guns that are generally like three gun specific. I'm recording video along with the podcast that I do with my guests. And people just love to see people and how they interact and how they talk, and it really adds something to it. So for people that consume like on YouTube, it really helps out that way, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm probably going to end up making another move here, probably go back to Texas at some point, because somewhere along the lines there, I was in Texas for several months, and I really enjoy the culture there. I really enjoy the amount of matches that you have available, and I enjoy the mild winters that they offer as well, being a Colorado boy. So I'm in Colorado now, and it's probably not going to be for very much longer, just a couple more months, but we're in the middle of the busy season right now, so I haven't seen Colorado for a couple weeks now. So, yeah, and I'll be going to a bunch of matches where you guys are going to be hanging out. Wyoming Governor's match, Rocky Mountain 3-gun, all kinds of good stuff. So
it's going to be great.
Yeah.
What do you do? I guess we've mentioned winter a couple times. What do you do when the season is slow in the winter? I guess I'm not familiar enough with it. Is there any matches going on in the winter, like in real deep south?
So in the southern part, 3-gun is completely regional, right? So in Minnesota, they completely stop and they go shoot indoors, which is incredible. Colorado, we've got, deer and elk season, right? So in October, we're like done with 3-gun because everyone wants to go hunting. But in like Arizona, St. George, Utah, southern Utah, Texas, places like that, Florida, of course, Vegas. I haven't been there. Vegas is another great point. There's a lot of 3-gun in the wintertime as well, because you're talking like, oh man, it's only 50 degrees today. I guess we'll bundle up and we'll go to the 3-gun match. It's kind of funny how like different that is, but you still get the opportunity. It doesn't snow in Texas, so there's still 3-gun matches. And for me, I take a step back and look at like my match schedule and my content schedule, and I figure out like, well, what kind of things are people talking about in the 3-gun community that I can capitalize on, as far as riding the content wave and the interest wave of the culture. And what are the things I want to teach? I teach a lot of in-person classes through video. On YouTube, I teach things as well. Instagram has been huge, so I try to think like 60-second tips and training that we can do. And then I'll lay out my content calendar along with my match calendar for the year. And that's kind of what I do in the wintertime. But I still keep the content going, But you will notice that in the shows that come out in the winter months, it is a lot more training based, a lot more gear prep kind of based, and it's not necessarily based around matches, because there's a lot of people that are doing the same thing, taking a step back and figuring out like what worked this year, what do I need to change, what is a gear upgrade I need to make, what some maintenance items I need to do, what do I need to do to fix my brain, what do I do to get back in the gym, stuff like that. So it's I kind of follow along the same path as like a competition shooter with the show, and I think people really identify that, especially the people that listen real time, or at least within the first few weeks.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's totally timely, right? Like, you're talking about what's going on right now and what everybody else is going to be doing, what they might need help with. And
that's kind of a lot like what we do around here too. I mean, a lot of people sometimes, if you just start following Vortex on social media in the summer, you might think we never hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not totally true. Of course, we do still talk about hunting because we're all excited for fall to come around. But when fall comes in, it's like you might think we never go to the range.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, not having like a huge hunting background, like the content you guys put out in the wintertime is interesting to learn like about other things that other people are doing, And I use a lot of what Vortex Optics is talking about in the fall to relate to my audience, because I don't particularly live in that area, but I know there's huge crossover in 3-gunners in hunting and outdoorsman activities. And so I kind of use that to build upon and pick out guests where I can, hey, what do you know about this topic? I heard you talking about this. I know you can talk about that. So it is, I definitely follow you guys and make sure that I'm staying up to date on what all the other outdoorsmen are doing while I'm still, creating videos and hiding inside.
For sure. What are those in-person classes you were talking about?
So
how does somebody get in on that, and what is it? What do you got going on there?
So I've been doing intro to 3-gun classes in Colorado, and traveling is something that I'm going to be doing as well, as far as like setting up near matches and before and after and stuff like that. And I have traveled for a couple of classes to put them on as well, so we can organize that as case by case basis. But yeah, I do an intro to 3-gun class where we talk about safety of firearms. We cover rules. Depending on the area that I'm in, I'll cover all the matches that are in that area right there. And we kind of take away like the mystery. The very first step, it's very basic. We take away like the hurdle for people getting in the game. I give them permission to, use their pump shotgun. I give them permission to use their, M4 carbine that they have, and maybe it's not appropriate for the game, but they're still going to have a good time. And a lot of people will just jump into something whole hog and go in and like, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to do it. But on the other hand, a lot of people like think that they need permission to do that. So, and it takes away the mystery of it. So I've been working with a lot of local match directors in Colorado, and they come and co-teach the class with me. And so now they have 2 people that they know at that match, and they have a buddy that they can go and talk to and help them through their match. So the biggest emphasis is safety. We talk about gear, we talk about where to go to find matches, and we talk about a little bit of technique as well.
That's awesome, dude. So you go from leaving Beep in a trailer to now being in Colorado and doing in-person classes, doing podcasts year-round on this stuff. It's super cool. I mean, I feel like I reiterate that a couple times, but it's pretty neat, man.
Yeah.
Pretty neat what you got going on.
Absolutely living the dream.
Those classes, do you have any stories of folks that have been like tentative or just testing the waters, and now they're just full tilt, all in?
I tell you what, man. So I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the coolest things happened recently is we had the Colorado 3-Gun Championship, right? And Colorado 3-Gun Championship is a smaller match. There's less than 200 people there. It's our state match, right? We get a lot of people traveling from other states, but the vast majority of the people there are club shooters, right? And this may be the only major match they shoot in a year. Mm-hmm. So we had one of our students that went through a class in, I think it was February, it could have been March, and he's been coming out to club matches. He came out to a couple of training days that we did, and he's taken a lot of advice, and you can see him processing everything and putting everything into practice. He's not one of those what I like to call an ask hole, right? Where they just continue to ask questions and they don't follow your advice. Like, this guy will take everything and put it into practice. And he's done that. And he actually shot the Colorado 3-Gun Championship. And that was July. And our class was in March. Like 4 months later, this guy's cool, I'm in. And he shot the championship, and he had a great time and really enjoyed himself. He's got a bunch of great pictures from Max Sportswear and Red Stitch Targets that took pictures at the match, and he's got his big cowboy hat on, and it was cool. For me, it was cool to watch him do that, but it was great to also have like a little part in giving him the confidence to be the guy that goes to the matches rather than the guy that's like, oh, that must be for someone else. So it was really fulfilling as a teacher and instructor, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do with the 3-Gun Show, is to empower people to train, to get better and stuff like that, and show them the true potential of what they can be in the sport if they want to.
You just got to make sure they don't get better than you.
That's right.
I always threaten people whenever I teach them, don't make me Tanya Harding you.
I always say you can rise to my level, but no farther.
I mean, you want to raise them up, just not that far.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Teach them everything they know, but not everything you know.
But no, that's cool, man. That's awesome to be able to see, see that impact and see that, transition take place, and that's a pretty neat story.
Yeah, see it right in action. It was pretty cool. And, we've had the vast majority of the people have no sort of competitive background in shooting whatsoever. We have had a couple students that have like, oh, maybe I did one class, but I'm going to take it, or one match, but I'm going to take a step back and learn something. But those are the people that when you're in the middle of the class and you say something, they're like, oh, and you got to stop and you're like, did you just have a moment we need to talk about and expand that, So it's pretty cool to find those opportunities to, show people like, this is why we do this, and shooting is great. And Ruben, you can attest to this. We're always like, just grab your stuff and come out to a match. And that does work. But we also have like really loud noises happening. There's a lot of things going on. It's intimidating because everybody knows what they're doing but me, and you have earplugs in. So if I'm trying to, tell you, Mark, how to do something, I'm shouting at you, to get through your earplugs, and there's loud noises going off, and we're supposed to be resetting. So there's a lot going on, but this gives people like super low pressure environment. We have coffee and drinks, and we just kind of chill out and talk about the game without any sort of pressure.
Yeah, it would be like, and I don't CrossFit. I don't know if you guys know this, but I don't do CrossFit.
You look like someone who does.
You look like you squat.
Maybe someday, but thanks, Jim. It would be like if you were going to your CrossFit class for the first time, except everybody's going to watch you do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I mean, anytime you do something for the first time, or just, it is intimidating, and there are primarily, or maybe oftentimes, we make our own mental roadblocks there.
Yeah.
You know,
One of the guests I've had on my show, Mark, has said that it's Matt Kupka, and he said that this combines the worst of all worlds. Like you were performing an athletic function in front of people, as well as doing it by yourself. So you're in front of people. So you have the athletic thing to come over. You have the safety thing to come over. And it's almost like public speaking because you're the one standing up in front of everyone and doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird thing about it is instead of like public speaking where everyone's in front of you, you can see if they're watching, they're behind you. So you feel their eyes. But it's honestly not like that. You know, people are there to encourage you. That's the positivity that people are putting into their observation of you.
That kept me from shooting competitively for at least a year.
Yeah, same here, man.
I would go to the range with my buddy Jeff, and we'd do the same stuff that he did when he would go and shoot USPSA. We'd, run the same, we'd set up little stages, but he had to try for at least a year to get me there because that was the main thing, was in front of people.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is pretty weird. So, Dave, okay, what do you got that you can tell us coming up now? As the podcast and as the Three Gun Show continues to evolve, can you give anybody like hints as to what they might be seeing down the line?
Sure,
that you're working on.
I really listen to the audience as far as like where to take content and everything else, right? So one of the things people have asked about for a long time is more and better apparel. So we're expanding the Three Gun Show apparel line. Three Gun Show store is going to have a lot more cool stuff in there that people can use and be a part of, as well as the continuing traveling the matches and bringing that match experience back to people. We do a match recon after every match now, and it basically tells all the listeners like what exactly they can get from going this match, how to practice for it, things to expect. And that lives on the Three Gun Show Patreon for like 90 days, and then it goes out on the main feed, and so everyone can enjoy it. And part of that kind of interesting thing is I've seen a lot of downloads of people like, oh, Nordic Vortex Trigun's coming up here, so the download spike on that because people are listening to it, trying to practice for it. But through the end of the year here, I've got a really cool project going with IWI. They sent out one of their Galil AKs, and I'm going to shoot one of the Galils in the Red October Kalashnikov Championship. So I'm a total gamer out of Three Guns, so I can't leave anything stock. So I've got a bunch of go fast things on there, and I'm going to put a 1-6 razor on top and with an offset razor on the side.
Dude, Jimmy, you should go to that one.
You should.
Sounds fun.
Dude, I got it 5.56, so I'm going to be throwing in the Magpul D60. We're going full open, baby.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. I went and shot the match last year, and I borrowed a gun, and I shot with my friend my friend Becky, and we used the same gun in the match, and we just had such a ball. So we're going to do it the same way this year, only she's going to be borrowing my gun this time, so it'll be a good time.
Dude. Sweet. You gonna get into any other kinds of shooting?
Yeah,
like long range.
Yeah.
Kinda?
So I love.
I don't want to spoil anything for you, Dave. You don't have to.
No.
All right.
I'm an open book, and probably to a fault sometimes, but I love long range shooting, and I've recently interviewed a couple people for the podcast that are in the queue that people can hear coming up in the next few weeks. But man, their culture sounds very similar to ours, like super helpful, welcome, warm kind of thing. So I am going to be taking the opportunities that are given to me to go shoot a long range match, maybe something in like the gas gun series, so I can use my 3-gun rifle. All I got to do is like change a scope on it to get a little bit more magnification.
Right.
And so we'll see how that goes, and hopefully that'll make me a better rifleman for 3-gun long range. But I got a rifle training class coming up in September that I'm going to be going to hone my, or not September, I'm sorry, November, to hone my skills and be able to use that sort of information to help better the 3-gun show community as well. So any opportunities that come up, I'm trying to take them. A lot of them are learning opportunities, especially in the off season, and expanding the stuff that we do. We've had a couple hunters on the podcast. I know some backcountry hunters locally in Colorado that are going to be on the podcast. We've had pistol GMs, and we're kind of expanding out of just the 3-gun niche into basically competitive shooting as a whole, and adjacent areas as well. Because one thing I found out is that 3-gunners are not just one thing. They have wide interests, and they love the long range. They love the pistol games.
I think that's why they chose a sport where they could shoot 3 different guns.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that fits my personality too because it's very eclectic, and there's several interests that you can draw from and lean on your strengths there.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah,
Great. Well, hey, I mean, is there anything else? I mean, that we didn't hit because as far as your story that you want to tell the listeners here, or I mean, did we pretty much? I feel like we learned a ton about Dave Hartman today, which was super cool.
Can I tell you the most difficult thing about traveling full time?
Yes, please
so
do.
if you've got a match in, like, say, New Mexico that you're going to, and you're coming from a match in South Carolina, and it's summertime, everywhere in between is really, really hot. And so you can you can do the.
We're not going back to your bathroom situation.
We are actually.
Oh, all right.
I'll skip that part. But when you do the thing of like, okay, well, I'll just drive for 6 hours. We'll spend the night. We'll sleep, and then me and the dog, and then we'll keep traveling. That travel trailer has been baking all day long, and it's like 120 degrees in there. And if you open so I don't have a generator, which was an oversight because, again, I'd never done this before. Oops. But yeah, when you pull in that Walmart parking lot and like it's now like 80% humidity in Iowa and, it's dropped down to a cool 78 degrees, you open all those windows, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. So there is a lot of challenges that go along with traveling full time, but the benefits have definitely been a whole lot of fun. And I've got some good stories I'll tell you another time about sleeping through tornadoes and just being so happy that now there's a breeze.
Sleeping through tornadoes.
Yeah.
Thank goodness this tornado's here.
Yeah, exactly, because now it's much cooler than it was.
Hey, look, tornado. I don't know if you could come another 100 yards closer, but
yeah. Well, and the trippy thing is you're in a travel trailer, right? And what do tornadoes love? They love RVs and trailers, man.
They seek them out.
They do.
Tornado magnets.
Yeah, they love to flick them like a tick.
But that cool breeze.
Oh man, it was totally worth it. Like if I go out, at least I'll be cool.
You got to make a promise to the listeners that if you're ever in a Walmart parking lot during a tornado, you're going to drive your truck through the doors into the Walmart.
There we go. I'll do it.
Do it.
Yeah, because that Walmart ain't going on.
No.
Yeah.
They build those things tough, man.
They do.
It's a thing now.
Yep.
What, driving trucks through Walmarts to get out of tornadoes? That's a thing.
How tall are the doors? We're gonna have to get a tape measure out.
Maybe,
I would want to see it.
I would too.
If that was on the news, I would.
Yeah, but
we'll do it for the gram.
Are they going to come after the Vortex Nation podcast for like conspiracy to?
Oh, maybe.
Apprenticeship. What do they call that? Not apprenticeship. What's the word for that? If you're
illegal parking.
Illegal parking.
I'm pretty sure it's illegal parking.
It doesn't say "do not park" here.
Yeah, and the produce section is kind of cool. So
they do keep it.
Maybe just go inside. Be safe.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Ruben, why didn't you think of that?
I don't know. I guess I care about everything you own.
Yeah,
it's just stuff, man.
Unlike
and
Mark.
You're at Walmart. Just get some more.
That's another thing. on
rollback.
He's got 7 things. I'm pretty sure they have.
Yeah.
Got one. He just said earlier he's got 1 fork.
Yeah.
You can get a pack of 4 at Walmart.
And that's a spork.
It's awkward when we have guests. Can I use a fork now?
Hey, the steak looks really good.
What's
man.
one of the funniest things that has happened to you?
Oh man,
since you've been on the road,
there's been several really funny match travel stories. The tornado's a good one. The taking. So I stayed at a friend's place in Texas and towed the trailer over into his yard, but he didn't tell me he lives on a hill and hill country in Texas. And there's a creek that you got to go down to and then up. So if you can imagine that, you're going down and up. So what do you do with a trailer? You're like, right, scrape the whole thing. So we had to go get a bunch of wood and 2x4s and put them under the tires, and then we removed the jacks so we wouldn't scrape anything. And it took us like 2 hours to get it in place. It's like, I'm gonna be here a week, just so you know, because I'm not moving this thing back out of here. Yeah, and then the sleeping during the tornado and being happy about it. Blue Ridge 2016 is my first Blue Ridge match, and for those 3-gunners out there, you know about Blue Ridge, but for those that don't, Blue Ridge is a very physical match, and it's a natural terrain match. So you're literally running through the woods of Kentucky at Rock Castle Shooting Center, And one of the things that they do is they'll like, okay, well, you're going to use all 3 guns here, but you're going to take them with you, and instead of staging them somewhere. So I had my shotgun slung on my back, and I had my rifle in my hand, and we had to shoot. We had to start with only 20 rounds in the mag, and there was like a 45 round rifle course. So I put in a 20 round magazine, and I go pop, 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 pop on like 3 targets, and then I was changing my magazine right there. Go to the big dog, and then I don't have to worry about it for the rest. And as I'm changing, I'm running down the course. I get that magazine in there, and I start to take off, and my right foot doesn't go anywhere, but the rest of me's still going. And I had tripped on this stump, and I went straight down. And as I'm going down, it's like slow motion, right? And I'm like, okay, going down, just get back up and start shooting again. But you're going to want to flick that safety on. So I put the safety on my rifle.
As you're falling.
As I'm falling, I'm having this conversation with myself. And it's like, okay, it's cool. Just get right back up. No big deal. And all right, so keep the gun pointed in a safe direction, telling myself all this. But if you watch the video, it's like just, you know. So but it did happen for me in slow motion, and I was able to have that conversation with myself. So flick the safety on, go down, put the rifle in a safe direction, and I go to get back up, and I'm not stopping. I'm still going. I'm like, what is happening here? And so I did a full endo somersault, heels overhead, and ended up on my back in the middle of like some nasty Kentucky foliage, staring at my squad. They're all looking at me like, oh, what just happened? And unfortunately, I misplaced a firearm on that one, so that was a DQ for me. Luckily, safe direction, no one got hurt or anything like that. But
my guess is when you do a full flip, you at some point break the 180.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard unless you pull a Kenny Calhoun here, where you go behind the back.
Patented move.
So I tell you what, with the rifle, I left it where it was, right? Because I didn't want to roll with it and
you detached yourself.
I detached myself from the rifle. Yeah, I basically just opened my hand. It was really easy. And the shotgun though,
quick release.
Yeah, the shotgun though, it's on a sling, and so it was unloaded, and so that they don't consider that a 180 because it's unloaded. The pistol did fall out, and that was what did it for me. But
there's a point in every new 3-gunner's life where you argue that you don't need a hood retention holster.
Yes.
Until that happens, and then everyone buys one.
Yes. So
good tip.
As being a guy, I tried to walk it off, no big deal, and going and unloading my stuff, and then all of a sudden, like several places of my body started to hurt. And I hyperextended my ankle on that and bruised a couple toes and ended up with a bunch of scrapes. And my hat came off, my eye pro came off, and one of the foamies that was in my head came out. Like, I don't know how a foamy comes out of your head or what sort of impact, So a foam earplug in my ear just went boom. And so got up, found my foamy, and it was too late. But shotgun hit me in the back of the head. I had like a long barrel bruise on my neck and head.
That may be what knocked the foamy out.
It could have been, actually, now I think about it. Created a pressure wave. And but yeah, that's been one of my more fun stories from the range. Unfortunately, it ended in disqualification for me, but I was already there, so I used it to get a bunch of content for the podcast and made it, a bunch of people on Facebook happy by showing them the video, and we went about our day.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Excellent.
I got one more question.
Go for it. We'll make it like his last call.
What was your favorite thing about 3-gun before you dropped absolutely everything and dove in both feet head first? And then what's your favorite thing now? And are they the same thing?
Good question. So they're not the same thing. Spoiler alert. So when I got into 3-gun, I really liked the physical aspect of it. I liked how fast it was. I liked that we got to use AR-15s and pistols, right? Mm-hmm. And I liked running through a course of fire and just, being like all Call of Duty style, doing my best Jimmy imitation there. And,
GoldenEye.
GoldenEye. Yeah, GoldenEye. And that's what I really enjoyed about it, was like the speed of it. But, since then I've discovered through interviewing so many people that, all these people are in fact people. They're not supernatural. They're not, larger than life. Wait,
you've met Jerry Mitchellek, right?
I have.
Okay.
That's the one exception to the rule. He's supernatural. You're like, oh my God, my hand feels numb. Oh, Jerry touched it the other day. Yeah. But so but with everyone else, they're like, fathers, mothers, they have kids, they have responsibilities, they do things outside of it, and three gun is their hobby, their passion. Meeting those people and being able to share the story of those amazing individuals with the audience has become my favorite part of it. And I got into three gun because I wanted something to do with my AR-15, and it's kind of odd the shotgun has become one of my favorites. So I really enjoy shooting shotgun now.
I was about to say, I noticed you specifically said the AR-15 and pistol at first. And I was like,
skipped the
that's because
shotgun.
shotguns suck. That's just because I'm bad at shotguns.
Yeah,
That's why I don't
and
like
initially, dude, shotguns do suck, and especially when you bring out, like I did, a Mossberg 500 with 6 rounds, and it's a pump and a wood stock. Like, slugs are not fun to shoot through that, and it's a very difficult game. But when you get the proper gear, it makes the game a whole lot more fun. So I've really been digging on shotgun this year.
Adam Maxwell says it. I think Adam says it. Every target you shoot with a shotgun either blows up or tips over.
Yep. Blows up, makes noise, or tips over.
Who doesn't like that?
You do have that
Yeah.
going for him.
It's
so.
great.
Perfect. Well, hey, I think that was a great last call. So for Dave, and we really appreciate, Dave, you coming on the Vortex Nation podcast here. It's pretty sweet.
Thanks for having me.
And once again, congratulations to you. You're coming up on that episode 200. That's very exciting. So for those of you listening out there, make sure you go tune into the Three Gun Show if you haven't yet. You're going to get a ton of great content, especially if you're considering jumping into Three Gun for sure, or even if you're already into Three Gun. Like Dave said, they've got Match Recon. They've got a whole number of different things. You're going to hear from Three Gunners across the country, which is sweet.
Across the world.
Right, the world.
Yeah.
Exactly. So check that out. Thanks as always for listening to the Vortex Nation podcast. Anything else, guys, before we sign out?
It's been fun, man. I need to up my studio game. This place is amazing.
Thank you very much. It has been fun. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Happy hunting and shooting. We'll see you next time. All right, that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Vortex Nation podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hit that subscribe button so you can always stay up to date on the latest happenings over here at the Vortex Nation podcast. Leave us a review or comment down below. We want to hear what you have to say about the show, maybe what you like, maybe what you didn't like, so that way we can make these podcasts as good as they can be. You can also follow us on Instagram at Vortex Nation Podcast. We'll be posting about each episode released, so that way you can go back, find these things, maybe grab a little nugget of information that you could take with you to the range, out in the field, or maybe to the kitchen if we're talking about some good food. So, again, everybody, thanks, and happy hunting and shooting. We appreciate it. Have a good one.